says that she loves me. Isn't it lovely when the one you love is the one you loving?
You know, I have a Sunday ritual. You know, I make my little matcha and then I watch Jane Pauley. She wasn't on. She didn't tell me good morning, I'm Jane Pauley with some other dude. But I watched because, you know, CBS Sunday Morning feels to me like that in 60 Minutes, one of the most complete forms of like media and packaging of stories that even if they don't tell all of the story the way I'd like it, I at least get breadcrumbs where I can go on my own journey. You know, like a few weeks ago, they had the architect that made the Hollywood hotel. And I was like, oh my goodness, I've never heard of him before. And they went back and talked to his daughter and his granddaughter. I mean, it was amazing. But this week they had Kareem Abdul-Jabbar on. And he was talking about, you know, his life and what he's doing now with his Substack and his podcast. And I didn't realize that he didn't go to the Olympics in 1968. I never imagined that he was supposed to go to the Olympics because it was not even a thing, because that Olympics in Mexico City, we know as the Olympics with Tommy Smith and John Carlos with the black glove and the black power fist in the air on the podium. Tommy Smith won the gold. John Carlos won the bronze. They stood at the podium, lost their careers, but made a statement in 1968, the Summer Games, about freedom and liberation and everything. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar was supposed to go to the Olympics. Instead, he decided he was going to not go because he said he couldn't validate. He wasn't going to go and validate this country and be like their representative. He couldn't represent America in the Olympics. And I was like, so I wanted to ask this question to you, because many of us are on these crossroads right now of like what to do. Matter of fact, let me play the clip.
He'd meet the moment the next year during the 1968 Olympics, while others made statements on the medal stand in Mexico City. Abdul-Jabbar made his by staying home.
You chose not to play.
Yes, I did.
Why?
I did not want to be part of showing the world a false image of America. And it was a very easy choice to make.
Easy choice. Was there a price to pay?
I didn't have any money at the time. There was nothing they could take from me. Certain things are worth more than anything that you can put a monetary value on.
You feel like if you go and play basketball for the USA in 1968, it's almost like you become a front man representing a country that was not fulfilling its promise to all of its citizens at home.
Right. Representing a country that Jim Crow was still alive and well. That bothered me. So I did what I could do.
Mm. So Kareem Abdul-Jabbar stayed home. He said, I didn't have anything, so it was an easy choice. And when they couldn't take anything away from me, he wasn't Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, the scoring leader until this year in the NBA. He was not, you know, the sky hook inventor at this time. He was a, you know, really, really good college player who decided to stay home because his spirit. And we remember him sitting at the table with Muhammad Ali.
Right.
So he was a man of conviction from New York at Lou Alcindor and decided to stay home. John Carlos and Tommy Smith won and made a statement. As you assess the two ways, and maybe there are more ways, because in many ways, right? Tell us something, Dr. Black, about these choices.
Yes. First of all, I think it's incredibly important for us to understand that Kareem Abdul-Jabbar did not choose to stay at home because he was already broke and he wouldn't lose nothing. He chose to stay at home because he was clear his soul is never for sale. That's why the man chose to stay at home. The second thing is,
we're gonna do this. We're gonna review. Hold on. The second thing, because every time you about to say something, the internet goes out. So I'm gonna put that on something. All right. The second thing he was saying.
This dual warriorship. We've been doing this from the time we left Africa. Some people continued on the journey, the Middle Passage. Some jumped overboard. But the ones who jumped overboard did not jump overboard because they hated life. They jumped overboard in order to become ancestrally serviceable to those who remained alive on the boat. In other words, the two forms of warriorship work together. There are silent soldiers and there are visible soldiers. And what we have to do as an African people is get clear to make sure we honor the silent soldiers, because the silent soldiers are doing invisible work that makes the visible work possible. And we've got to have both of them. You absolutely need both Jesus and the Holy Ghost, if you will.
How do you know who you are? So again, part of the journey that I'm on, that I'm inviting people onto. So let me just be clear. This retreat is for me. I'm just going to be really clear. I want to get to another level spiritually. I want to connect with myself better. So we're going to sprinkle in some folk, like Iyanla is just going to be there. She ain't got to do nothing. Dr. Robin's going to be there. They ain't got just in case, and then you're ushering through a certain thing. We're going to do some meditation. We're going to do some yoga. This is going to be, and you can do what you want. Of course, we're going to have some fun because, that's me too. I want to play cards and do some karaoke. But, for me, I want us to ground ourselves, right? So how do you know? And I don't think we sit with ourselves enough. We're so busy in the midst of life that we don't sit with ourselves long enough to figure out, or frequently enough to figure out why am I here? That's a big question. But really, who am I? Am I a silent warrior? Am I a visible warrior? Am I somebody that's supposed to be support, or am I supposed to be a leader? What am I supposed to be doing? And I think a lot of folk are operating in confusion.
Mm-hmm. And I think a lot of people are operating in confusion, just as you said, because we don't sit long enough. See, when you walk with God, who's talking? See, most times when we're in prayer, we're talking. Very few people wait for God to talk back. And if we don't do that, we'll miss our clarity of what season you're in. All of us will have seasons of silence. We'll have seasons of being bold, and war can come in any season. Whichever one you're in is really dependent upon, your clarity of what season you're sitting in at the time. But if a person doesn't know, you can talk too much too soon. Right? And in this case, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar was clear. I'm in a season, of my silence where all I got to do is be still, right? And the battle is going to be fought, right? And so one of the things that we all have to do is understand that you got to get clear about what movement and what season you're in. And the only way to do that is to be quiet and let God talk. And if you don't hear God, be quiet until you do.
What if you've never heard God talk? What if you've never heard that?
Mm-hmm. If a person has never heard God talk, it's because you talk too much. Number one. And number two, if a person's never heard God talk, God's talk is not necessarily speech. God's talk is often presentation, right? How in the world did you walk past the blooming of those hydrangeas and you didn't hear God? How did you do that? Because we're listening for speech. See, in other words, we're trying to make God human. God is not one of language. God is one of communication and revelation. But if you go to the ocean is going to speak absolutely every single day. All you got to do is meet it there. But if you get to ocean and you don't hear God, then you're looking for a person. God doesn't come in the form of personage. God comes in the form of beingness.
We were Dr. Carr, Dr. Senyata, Amen, Kevin Strait, Urias, and we were at BlurCon last Saturday before last, and they had signers. They would switch out because they would get tired. So they had signers, and Dr. Carr was like, I couldn't focus because I'm moderating, but he was like enamored with the nonverbal communication and how expressive it was and how powerful it was. And you see it now, really good ones, like when there's storms and they have press conferences in New York. Like New York, I think, has the dopest on television signers. They are just telling us everything. And I think about our brothers and sisters as I'm on these radio airwaves that kind of requires you to be able to hear. And it's sad that like some of my audience cannot engage with me because they don't have the ears to hear.
That's right.
Right.
That's right.
But the power of that, watching these signers, and when you were talking, I was like, what about when people don't speak the same language? Somehow we are able to communicate. And you write about it brilliantly in The Coming, with all of the different languages in the holds of the ships. Right. There was community and communication happening. And we figure it out. We figure it out
because gestures will do it. Music will do it. Eye contact will do it. If there's somebody who's really hot and they think you hot, you don't have to say one word. But if those eyes meet, right, the announcement has been made.
Yeah, 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 yeah. I run my fingers through her hair as she smiles and says that she loves me. Isn't it lovely when the one you lost thing is the one?